Surviving those slow times Star Trekking. Don't forget the other anniversaries. Today on Trekland Tuesdays Live, number 402, with me, Dr. Trek Larry Nemecek, coming at you here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47. And yes, the Trekland Treks, your home for customized away missions that you decide you take with my help every step of the way for a great day tour around Southern California for the real Star Trek locations you have always wanted to visit with my help. Hey, everybody, thank you for joining us again for a Tuesday. It's a Tuesday. What can I say? It's a Tuesday in June. We're waiting on Strange New Worlds. The first round of the big summer cons is broken out this last week. That's, for a lot of folks, that's kind of what's the high point of this year right now. I mean, we're waiting on Strange New Worlds, but we're definitely in thinner times for Star Trek. And that means less new stuff to deal with, but that also means, hey, kids, this is the way it was in the 12 years of fallow times. And yeah, we had movies. We had movies that people didn't quite still figure out where they fit in the big picture because they weren't going to. But as a standalone, they were something. I'm talking about the JJ movies. But really, there were years when we didn't have even a movie going. We had, of course, the years, well, the original fallow times when people didn't, it was an existential thing. And from what I'm reading, we may be at an existential moment for Star Trek even after a couple of years go by. We'll see. That was the rather heavy topic we got into last week. So I tell you what, while we wait on Strange New Worlds, while we get through a slow June, waiting for more summer cons to come down the pike, let's take a little bit lighter tone this week. I'm excited. I'm going to be at SoonerCon in about 3 weeks, I think. And if you're in the greater Southwest Plains, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Kansas, Arkansas, SoonerCon is not little rinky-dinky little corner drugstore convention anymore. You want to get yourself there. For one thing, just on the Trek, on the MediaCon side, they've got Garrett Wang and Ethan Phillips, on top of moi not having to be the only Trek rep there this year. So I always love to get back with my home peeps and support what's going on there. It's a good old-fashioned charity fan convention of all stripes. There's cosplay and anime and legit authors, legit artists, art show. It's all the best of the old school lit cons and all the best of a Comic-Con fan-type media con. And yes, it's at Norman, Oklahoma, right off I-35. And it's a very aware, very supportive, dare I say, very woke convention. No, it's and there's kids stuff. There's so much kids stuff going on too. So I want to make sure everybody knows that's coming up the third weekend of June, and I can't wait to get back. Well, it's 19th, the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Just for starters, but there's so much going on. We've got so many more conventions to come for the summer after this. But also, I'm going to say that if you are watching us later on YouTube, don't forget you can jump in on the commentary too here. Please like and subscribe to YouTube if you haven't already. No, what I want to talk about today is something it's amusing. I point it out every so often. In Star Trek, we're a major part of pop culture. We invented half of pop culture here, even though a lot of the world doesn't realize it's still part of our mission. And one thing we love in pop culture is we love some anniversaries because they kind of fill out the year, right? The same way holidays do. They're markers, they're guideposts, they're comfort zones. As far as watching time go by, it's nice to have something orderly in the chaos of the world, the ever-changing chaos of the world, right? There's some things you can count on. You can count on football season or baseball or whatever your season is. You can count on holidays. You can count on the change in the weather, and you can count on First Contact Day. You can count on Star Trek Day. You can count on, well, go through the list. All your movies, all your TV shows, from September 8th on down. You can count on those, and they're fun to celebrate. And they're always, thank God for podcasters and news sites. They provide, a shower of, yet again, more interview excuses and stories and things to populate the world. but deep down, they're fun. They're how we mark the year. And in some ways, depending on who we are, or I should say what part in your life Star Trek plays, it can be just as important as Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year's or whatever a holiday somebody else celebrates. Arbor Day. Hey, I'm all for trees. I'm all for not repeating the Dust Bowl. Don't get me wrong. But there are clearly some holidays, some actually holy holidays, and some that are just marker days that people don't hold in near as much esteem as First Contact Day or Star Trek Day or, the Bell Riots anniversaries. Go down the list. We now have Pioneer Day, right? The anniversary of the first launching of the NX-01, thanks to Picard Season 3. In our litany of fictional as well as real Star Trek days. But here's the thing. In slow times like these, when there's not a lot going on, when the studio isn't throwing a lot at us, and fandom gets creative, and we mark holiday. And you know what? When we're talking about fan anniversaries, well, what's the gathering point here? People always remember the premieres, which is typically what? The fall. That's most of the TV series, and that's a lot of the movies. The holidays are big movie time, right? The movie openings. And then we've got, the mid-season shows like DS9 and Voyager have their mid-year, their January premieres, right? Then we've got the summer blockbuster, the years when Star Trek movies came out in the summer, about this time. In fact, hey, happy anniversary, June 1st, to Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, right? On this date, in 1984, big anniversary was last year, right? It was the 40th. Yes, the 40th. So happy 41st to Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, which is one of those that people love to go back and revisit because they don't think it gets the love that it's due. Fair enough. And of course, springtime, often, no matter when a show started, a series started, spring is often the finale anniversary, right? So I don't know. We just had, did you know this? We just had yesterday the finale of What You Leave Behind on its first airing day, because of course DS9, like TNG, aired across a week, depending on the market, because it was syndicated. There was no uniform show day. But the first day, the Monday night of the week, of the syndication debut week, What You Leave Behind premiered yesterday date in 1999. Party like it's 1999. Here's what always gets me, though, about series premieres and series finales and movie premieres, because they clump. They tend to clump in the fall, at the holidays, early summer, and maybe lastly even early winter for the mid-year, which doesn't even exist anymore now. Once we get away from network lineal worlds for viewing, people concentrate on the high points, and that's cool, right? Just like people look at people remember their 30th birthday and their 21st, maybe their sweet 16, their 40th, maybe their 65th, because it's retirement, at least in the old world. Yeah, people even have their personal birthday landmarks, right? And we have wedding anniversaries. Everybody gravitates to 25th and 50th and 20th and 10th and 1st. Oh, yeah. But the thing that all of these do is they ignore the life in between. This is what's always got me. I always love about Star Trek. There are very few times we break out of the finale premiere, mold on celebrating anniversaries. And it just struck me that, look, it's a typical month here. I just did some work for another benefactor, and it brought me to mind, in this time when we are a little low here on major headlines for Trek, as we wait, as we get dribbles out of what so-and-so said at a convention somewhere. For instance, yes, June 1st was the anniversary. It was the Star Trek premiere date, Star Trek 3 premiere date, right? in 1984. But look, 3 years later, it was the first day of shooting on stage for TNG. Yes. The last Friday of May was the first day of shooting on Next Gen. They went out to the Farpoint, the holodeck. For Farpoint, they went out to the holodeck. It was at Ferndale in Griffith Park. Yes, the finale, the premiere of Next Generation had one, count it, one shooting day. Because they wanted to show off the sets and go big time, right? They weren't thinking so much about scope as they just bought these sets and wanted to show them off because it was the comeback. Now, DS9's premiere, a lot more location, obviously. Enterprise, a lot more location, tons of location on the Enterprise, on Broken Bow, and a little bit on Voyager. Well, a lot on Voyager as well. But only one day at Ferndale Park in the Creek, Data, Wesley, and Riker. But this day, the 1st of June, 1987, was the first day of shooting on the stages. There was a big hoo-ha there. They were on the Bandy Mall because they had to shoot on that first, take it down, and then build the Q courtroom there. They weren't even on the bridge set yet for real shooting, which was another cause of celebration and photography. But there was Entertainment Tonight had a story about the first day of shooting, but it was all on the Bandy Mall, But that was 1987. And you know what? These aren't 0 and 5 year anniversaries, right? The big ones, but they're still the things. They're still the things. Here's a finale that very few people do. Today is the anniversary of the finale of Turnabout Intruder. Why does it not get more love? Well, because it's Turnabout Intruder. And it wasn't designed to be a real finale, because I got into a thread the other day. Somebody said, wow, Turnabout Intruder is going to be the lousiest finale anywhere. And I'm going, it's not a finale. It's just the last show they made. It's very clever what's happened in the streaming era. We've talked about this. We have gone from being on the bubble and wondering if you're going to get renewed to, now you knew by the time, usually you knew by the time a show aired, but this was kicked back because of Eisenhower's funeral, and it should have aired like a couple of months earlier, but it got kicked back to June. It's almost time for Apollo 11. Apollo 10 has flown to the moon and back without testing. No, in Earth orbit without, lunar orbit without landing, but testing the lunar module. Weeks away is Apollo 11, when Star Trek's finale ends. Turnabout Intruder is not a great show. You can retcon away Janice Lester in the lineup, but you don't have to shoot yourself in your Star Trek optimism about feminism and equal rights. You just make Janet Lester crazy and say your world of Starship women doesn't include me. She's crazy. She's been rejected. She deals with her rejection. People that are hung up on that line, it may have been a wacky going out the door mistake as Star Trek was unraveling the team. No one was paying attention, or people were sleepwalking through the last days. But it's okay. Otherwise, Turnabout Intruder's bigger crime is the last scene of the episode is Kirk and Spock and Scotty just get in a turbo lift. It's so dramatic. Yeah. Turnabout Intruder's anniversary today, 1969. What is that, 52 years ago? No. I shouldn't do math on the run. You know what I'm saying? Now look, tomorrow, okay, major anniversary. Tomorrow's the main opening in the U.S. of the Wrath of Khan 1982. Not a 0-5 year. Big anniversary. You'll see a lot of people talking about the Wrath of Khan's, 2 days before D-Day. Not in real time, but on the calendar. But look at this. And then on the 9th is Star Trek V's anniversary. Okay, fine. Yay. But you get to the 10th. Here's the thing. On June 10th was the day in 1977. You're saying 77? That was the day that the Paramount television service was announced by Paramount, with the flagship show to be Star Trek. Star Trek 2. Star Trek Phase 2 was the name that got retconned later on. Yeah. Is anybody going to celebrate June 10th? In another couple of years, it'll be the 50th anniversary. So we're at 48 this year. The anniversary of the Paramount television service that would have grown into the original fourth network and beat Fox by 10 years, nearly, much less the WB and UPN 20 years later. Yeah. Barry Diller, who's making the rounds with his book, was behind this. It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. The 12th and 13th of June, the 2001, 2 days of location shooting in Bakersfield, California, standing in for Broken Bow, Oklahoma, which is hysterical. Cornfield. No, it's forested in Broken Bow, but it's okay. We found out there was a farm growing corn a little south of Broken Bow back in 2001. Of course, who knows after World War III what land use patterns are going to look like. But for now, there's almost no corn near Broken Bow. Broken Bow's down in the timber corner of Oklahoma, down the corner with Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas. But it's okay. I retconned this 25 years ago. It's fine. It's all good. But that's the anniversary. The first shooting of Enterprise on those location days, 2 days in Bakersfield. Right. And then the 16th, the second draft of Where No Man Has Gone Before. Yeah. Where No Man, as in 65, which is a big anniversary that'll get celebrated this year. The shooting of Where No Man later this year. We could go through the day. There's a special one coming up later this month that I'm saving for a special occasion. So let me just jump ahead, okay? There's some real world Star Trek anniversaries happening this month. June 19th is on this day in 2151. It's first contact with Andorians at the incident at Pajem. Sure, yeah, on this date in 2078, the SS Conestoga arrives at Terra Nova, the new colony. Their setup, their first establishing on this day. And gosh, 2078, that's not long after first contact to begin with. What is that? We've got 53 years to go. Get on the ball there. You can do this. You can do this all the way down. And what's also cool is on June 24th, on this date in 1966, was the day, June 24th, that Sandy Gimple shot her day as the salt vampire for the Man Trap. I know it premiered September 8th, but June 26th. See, when you get into call sheets, when you get into records, memos, hello Trek Files, the Trek Files, everything else, Portal 47, when you get into the records, you can populate your lineup of anniversaries. So many more things to celebrate when you dive into the records. See where we go? And we haven't even talked about the spit. It's one thing to intellectually say this and know this. And then, of course, you can do posts. You can memeify things. Oh, but hey, what about building props? What about CGI? What about cosplaying? I mean, the Star Trek anniversary industry complex can yield so many more spin-off industries, don't you think? Actually, it already has. I'm having so much fun with this. And then June 25th, Farpoint wrapped its first unit photography. You get the whole gamut, right? They started May 1st, 31st, 29th. Had the weekends off, obviously. And then wrapped on primary filming, first unit photography on June 25th. And then even bigger than that, on June 27th, 1967 was the date that Desilu's formal date of sale to Paramount happened, which a lot of people mourned at the time. The next day, they had a transfer ceremony, cut a ribbon. Lucy was there, and it was the last day she ever set foot on the lot. It was hard for her. Gang, there's a lot to celebrate. And I've just kind of danced through June. I haven't hit everything. There's in-house, in-universe anniversaries, but there's also real-world things. And I kind of even avoided birthdays. Happy birthday a couple of days ago to Anthony Montgomery coming up. There's birthdays, there's death days. June's always bittersweet to me because of Dee's death on the 19th, was it? The 11th. And I remember where I was and all of that. About to go on stage to the opening ceremonies of a con in North Carolina, in High Point, North Carolina. See, you never forget those things. And we were the ones that this was pre-cell phone days, gang. Not even video, just, texting. In 1999, we heard about it as we we're about to go on and help do the opening ceremonies. And I announced it to that convention, and we had a moment of silence for Dee. Yeah. So I think we were due for a little bit lighter approach this week after last week got very heavy. I'm just saying that as we count down to Strange New Worlds, as you count down to your convention of choice, or you know what? Not everybody can make it to a convention. I'm hoping that there's something near enough that even if it's a day trip, you can make it to, even if it's a big club event. And, blessed be the prophets and Heokalis that people have clubs and organizations. Maybe now we are inverted. Things start online. Things start with social media. Maybe somewhere there, and I know this happens, there's a Facebook page that goes live. We'll do it live. And they set up whatever they call a home base. Sometimes it's inherent. Sometimes it's just wherever the administrator's home base might be. And if it's gathered around, a ship chapter of one of the national organizations, whatever it might be, Starfleet or Federation, IFT, or it's a meetup club, whatever. It's an away team bunch. If there's something going on near you, you're going to enjoy that. And it's summer. So, hey, it's summer. But whatever's going on, whatever is filling up your time with Star Trek, here's one more thing. And every once in a while we come back to this. I mention it all the time in passing. It always kills me how series get thought of as their premiere dates and their finale dates. And everything in between, 95% of the time, gets overlooked. And that's where the guts of anything are. Documentaries, to their credit, have to talk about research and development. They have to talk about legacy. And a lot of times they're limited, especially on screen. Book form, maybe not so much. Obviously, the Next Gen Companion, we got to wade through everything kind of equally because it's a book. But when you get on screen, sometimes the tentpole events, you don't forget them, but you only get to wonder. There's a cast change. That's the biggie. Worf is coming. Seven is coming. That happens. But so much of the Sturm and Drang, the day-to-day, that's worth remembering. If you're a fan of that show, if you're a fan of that movie, it's worth remembering. And they get overlooked. So as we uncork, as we unwrap, as we unearth, well, I have a ton of it there, but sometimes it's just getting the word out. But as Memory Alpha populates, and I'm glad that we're formally hooked up now, the Trek Files with Memory Alpha, and a lot of everything we're posting for our documents of the week is getting fed back into. It's not just that they're a database for us, but all of our information from documents now is feeding and enriching the entries in Memory Alpha. And I've seen that happening over the years, but after 3 or 4 or 5 years of that, especially from the pandemic and a slowdown, I looked at buddy and producer John and said, we're generating so much actual documented factoids here. Why is none of this in Memory Alpha? And what started off as a drive to have a community space really morphed into just a partnership there. So I'm getting ahead of my Trek Files reminder this week. But because we've got so many more resources than we used to have, and they're widespread, and you don't have to look so much. In the early days of online world, it was a little bit like the old days of magazine world. Oh, look, I've got a photo nobody else has, so I'm an expert. I'm relevant. And the early days of online was that, oh, here's an anniversary no one else knows about, but I do, so I'm going to post a post and get 1 million shares and likes. And now we have a great small d democratization of the online world. And the more of those kind of dates and things get put out there, the more the images are out there. It's not so much for the people that had something cool, but the thrill of sharing, because the credit gets detached most of the time, unless you're really, really, really hardcore wiki comics. So I've long ago made peace the fact that my historic picture of the Voyager landing as they shot it on the brown paper at MSG, it's just out there. It's just gone. So yay, Star Trek. But on the other hand, things like everyday nuts and bolts things for giving us something to remember, marking the year, being true to our fandoms and the shows and movies we love, beyond just remembering the start and end dates, right? It's like a tombstone with the birth date and the year date on there. There was a lot more to that life between the birth and death dates. The people need to be remembered. If you remember them at all, hopefully there's somebody you care about, and what came between those years deserves to be remembered, and not to equate human beings with the shows that we love and people are spending hours and hours and months and years of their lives getting to know, enjoying, plumbing the depths of. It's worth having all that there. And if nothing else, in times like these, in times like these of slow Trek headlines, in times like these of insanity happening in the outside world so much of the time, and leading us to look for a mental health break, to have something to fill in the gaps it otherwise be. Have I made this into a PhD level webinar yet? I don't know. We just went through some dates in June. There's a whole rest of the year here to go through. So if you are short on time, if you're short on things to take up your time, then there you go. There you go. Maybe do some research. Maybe do some reading. Maybe you can find some background books, if not on what's available online, but you can poke around and see. Maybe it's the personal lives of the people who are the on camera or even off camera. And maybe it's their lives and their achievements and little whatever it is to do. This is the fallow time, and we may be getting a lot more of this in another year or two, depending on what goes down with all those larger issues I talked about last week. But for right now, there's always something. After 60 years nearly, there's always something to celebrate with Star Trek. In fact, in a few more years, maybe we will have, and when more is generated about the current era, the Secret Hideout era here, and there's enough to fill up a full calendar, and we can get it out there to people, maybe we'll have an on this date, one of those books where every single date of the year has that kind of a calendar. You can put that together roughly yourself, but I'm talking about having something for every day, having the whole year filled out, and then having something to illustrate it with, and having, it could be a desk calendar. The calendar folks should love that when they're almost not licensing any other merch. There's always a calendar. Okay, gang. I had one other thing I wanted to mention this week, aside from my major topic, just a shout out. And if you're listening to the Trek Files, you'll know about this. But want to give a yell to our friend Bruce Horak, yes, Hemmer, and just to know that he's got an Indiegogo going for his documentary called Boldly Going. He is painting, yes, he's legally blind, but he is sighted. He can pass for sighted, as he did with Hemmer, as he did with the K-pop Klingon. You can check out his, he's, I don't know, midway through it. He's trying to raise whatever he can toward this documentary, which is very insightful about a blind, partially sighted person's path. As an artist, he's painting people. Go check out his Indiegogo site. It's kind of amazing. It's still happening. And I just, wanted to do that shout out, as well as a shout out again for SoonerCon is next on my schedule. And if you're anywhere in Greater Oklahoma, North Texas, Eastern New Mexico, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, you want to get yourself to Norman. SoonerCon's number 33, and it's bigger and better and homier. Very fanish, very homey, whatever your slice of fandom is, Trek or otherwise, however you express it, cosplay, anime, artistry, or you just want to take a professional author's workshop, up and down the line, as well as have a ton of fun. You got kids, they will have plenty to do. And it's a great hotel. It's a great venue. I love it. It's one of my favorite places to have a con now. I'll be there. I'll be there along with Garrett and Johnny Ethan, and we'll have a lot of fun. But thanks, everybody, for coming by with us here for another Tuesday. I have so many things and people to thank. Yes, thanks to all of our Patreoners there. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. If you want to jump in on my Patreon too, it's patreon.com/TreklandLive. $5, $10 a month. They take it. You can do more than that. I appreciate it so much, everybody. I know we're going to have guests coming up this month. I have a 1-week hiatus coming up at the end while I'll be traveling Oklahoma, and I could probably sit down and do this live, but I can't predict schedule, much less strength of internet where I'll be. So we'll have a week off, but before then, I think we have at least one or maybe two guests lined up here on Tuesday, which is awesome. So stick with me for that. We'll see you next week, and we'll figure out that schedule. All right. Otherwise, meanwhile, make sure and get in touch with me if you and your travels are going to make it to LA and you wind up with a spare day that you would rather do a real cool Trek tour than, yet another suicide Hollywood actor tour or something. Whatever it is. And yes, thank you for the Trek Files. Today's episode is our first with the great Ron D. Moore. Yeah, talking about Inside Star Trek. I saw your comment about the record, and I thought, are we up to Ron's episodes? We had a blast with that, and it's a first-time history. We're not doing a paper document. We're doing audio off the Inside Star Trek album. I think we have a paper document to start, but we wind up playing audio clips off of Gene's. Nothing like it had ever been done before, an audio record about the making of a show. And 7 years after, again, Star Trek was pushing the envelope here. The demand for information in media, we didn't have videotape yet. We did, but it wasn't a commercial thing. There's Star Trek pushing the envelope. The internet is just paper and stamps. Paper and stamps fandom of the 70s before there was an internet. I love making that. And we asked Ron to come on, and I said, is there something you want to talk about? Because I want to talk about the Inside Star Trek album. And I said, cool, we can do that. Good news, we'll be back next week and do different topic, but more of that. So if you have not heard the Trek Files yet, go over. And it's another good excuse to say, if you want to talk more about the Trek Files, make sure and get in with Trekophiles, spelled with an F, tonight on Monday. And the way you do that is join the Roddenberry Patreon, the Mission Log Patreon, for $1 a month. You get access to all of their shows and Patreons and the audiences and the message boards and the communities. But most of all, you get the Trek Files best shot at that. And we're really developing a great bunch of regulars and people that drop by, but we just started. It's still in the beginning stages. If you were on my Patreon, you had a chance to come over for free. That window's closed, but it's still pretty reasonable to come over. I love talking about the Trek Files, to finally know there's actual people that are watching, besides occasionally people pop up here. So yes, Ron Moore is our guest on the Trek Files this week. You want to listen to it, go over and take a listen, and then jump in on the Mission Log Patreon and come over for Trekophiles tonight. Or the message boards are there 24/7 for the Trek Files and for all the other Roddenberry podcasts. All right. Other than that, gang, you know where to find me. It's Larry Nemecek on Twitter, on X, and on Blue Sky especially, and it's Larry's Trekland on Instagram and Facebook, and especially on YouTube. Please like and subscribe and do all the things. Portal47.net. We're going to be talking about Portal 47 this summer at the cons. Yeah. We're coming in with a slew of great guests. We've had Rod Bowman has done 3 guest nights because he doesn't want to talk forever, but he wants to talk about everything. So we have split it up, and it'll wind up being 3 90-minute sessions with the great Rob Bowman, and it's on tape, and I can't wait to even hit some specifics. We also have a surprise. All you Portales, we're about to unleash some amazingness of history on a guest night this next month. I'm not even going to mention it in person because we're also going to make sure and have them on the Trek Files in a couple of months, in short dose. So a lot of fun stuff happening. Is there still something new to do with Star Trek? Yes, there is, even though we're not getting new Strange New Worlds for a while. And it's thin on the horizon after that. There's always something new to bring to the table, to bring out, as we say in Portal, it's for all the folks who have no idea how much Star Trek they have no idea about, which sometimes includes me. That's what's fun about it. Because, people do need their mental health days currently, as always, but especially these days. So I think that's wrapping it up for us this week, everybody. Please stay well, do all the things. Remember Bruce Horak's crowdfunder on Indiegogo called Boldly Going. Watch his video. It's amazing. Show him some love if you can. What have we done here? We are we're staying healthy by doing all the things, and we are staying awoke by checking your sources. Don't get sucked into crazy. And Trek well,